welcome back. Thank you all for joining. We are refreshed and...
Wasn't that a great summer, folks?
Let's not go there. So we've had a break over the summer, feeling refreshed and still not in a complete normal situation with lockdown, but we wanted to come back together. We had so much fun with the last series. It was quite crazy, like lots of different topics, but also lots of different guests that we had on, which made it, quite variable in terms of the style. So we have calmed down a little bit for this series. It's, today it's just the two of us. And then the next webinars that we're going to be doing, which I'll talk about at the end, we have a select few guests on those, so it shouldn't be crazy like some of the others have been. But yeah, it's been fun. So we wanted to come back, and we're back, and we're glad that you're all coming back too. It's really nice to see some familiar names. And tonight we are talking about savvy sipping. We really wanted to get together and, because we learning and talking about wine all the time, we do like shortcuts in terms of what we want to buy and what we want to try. And of course, you always want to drink beautiful, expensive wine, but you can't always, you don't do that every day. So we have wines that we have at home, and there are kind of shortcuts that we go through to choose or try wines, and then we wanted to share those shortcuts with you. So in terms of how to buy wine that's good value for money at different price points, and we'll be going through some various price points today, but it's kind of a how do you feel confident in buying wine, and how do you choose wine without feeling like, oh, is this just going to be too much of a gamble? So we've got some unusual wines to share with you tonight as well.
And also knowing the difference, there's a difference between cheap wine versus good value for money too. I just kind of wanted to do a caveat because, of course, we love recommending. I used to write for Waitrose magazine. I'm all about promoting amazing wines and making them as accessible and relatable as possible. Soma also is constantly posting and blogging about interesting wines at supermarkets at very affordable prices. But sometimes, even if it's maybe a little bit more than what people tend to think of as like savvy spending, like 10 quid max or 15 quid max, sometimes it's by spending even just £3, £4, £5 more than maybe you would usually in your supermarket shop or in your weekly wine shop. You just get so much better value for money and such higher quality if you do use some of our tips and go for maybe unfashionable grape varieties or not so well-known regions. So we really hope that we can inspire you and empower you with your, we don't know how long quarantine's going on for, so we want to keep you inspired, stimulated, and plenty more of delicious home sipping to come.
Absolutely. And so this isn't even one of our tips, so this is a bonus tip. If you spend £5 on a bottle of wine, once you've taken away the price of the bottle, the marketing, the shipping, all those kinds of standard costs, the amount that actually goes to the winemaker is 50p. So from £5, you're actually getting 50p of wine. If you spend £10, you get £3 of wine. So, you're doubling from 5 to 10, but you're sextupling from 50p to £3. So that's, it's a big difference. And, some people say, oh, £8 is my sweet spot. Some people say £10 is my sweet spot. It's up to you to find your kind of sweet spot. And then, I think for me, £12 is my sweet spot because, it's like the more that you try, the more that you kind of go, I want to spend a little bit more because, you might want to spend a little bit more and drink less wine overall, less volume.
And I always say to people, if you know a kind of wine producer or a kind of the grape you like or the region you like, then if you spend 10 to 15 pounds, it is that kind of sweet spot, then you will just get so much more. And you don't need to be a wine expert in terms of working out a wine quality. You know, I often do, like, I do these things called grocery grabs and invite my friends around and we all taste, and they can spot the difference between the $5 versus the $15. Like, you don't need to be a wine professional, but just in terms of its complexity, its balance, you know, whether it feels aggressive, whether you're sort of like tasting beautiful things, whether they can imagine serving it with food, or whether it's something you just want to dump ice cubes in because it is fairly offensive. All I'm saying is it is, you don't need to be an expert to pick up the difference. Yeah.
And it's also finding what you like. So we're going to give you, you know, our kind of tips and what we do. But it's also finding what you like. In a pop-up that I've done, I did a flight of Australian Shiraz. One was $6.99 and it went up to $14.99, so 3 different wines. And some people absolutely preferred the $14.99, some preferred the middle, and some preferred the cheaper one. And it's all about your taste. And if you prefer the cheaper one, go and buy the cheaper one, because that'll save you some money. So yeah, all about savvy spending tonight. So we also want you to share your tips and also share with us anything that you've found through lockdown that you think is a bargain, because, you know, other people are watching this and reading the chat to, you know, get tips and find out what other people have found. So please do share those with us. Okay, so we're going to go down. We've chosen 12, a case of 12 wines, 12 tips, and we're going to count them down. So we don't have any cheesy Radio 1 top 40 countdown.
I know, that's a bit sad.
But we're going to be counting them down. So number 12 is one of my favorite tips, and this is actually my husband's favorite tip, is to follow winemakers. He likes it because I know the winemakers. I know when they move on and they move somewhere else. So he likes that I do that, but it's quite hard. So unless
stalking.
Yeah, stalking. Unless you're really kind of keeping up with reading about who's moving where, it's quite difficult to do, but I'll just give you a couple of examples. So Cloudy Bay Sauvignon Blanc, famous, amazing wine, I think it's about £25 a bottle. That used to be made by Kevin Judd, and then it got bought out by LVMH, so that's Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, and he left Cloudy Bay and he started making Grey Raki, which is about £17 a bottle. So you've got essentially the same winemaker in the same region, but making a wine with a different brand, and because it doesn't have the Cloudy Bay label that everybody knows, you know, he can do it cheaper because it doesn't have that kind of premium to it, but you're still getting an excellent quality wine. So that's my first tip. Another one on that is Majestic Wine. They have a winemaker series. So they have winemakers that are well known for other, for making, you know, more famous wines, and then they ask them to make a wine especially for them. You can tell it's got a like the face of the winemaker on the label. I don't have one with me here, but one example is Chocolate Block, well-known South African red blend, you know, famous, again, about, I think it's about 22 pounds a bottle for Chocolate Block, and the winemaker, Mark Kent, he makes a red blend for Majestic under the winemaker series. It's not as complex and it's not as developed, but if you like that style of red at the Chocolate Block, you can buy his winemaker series red from Majestic at $9.99 mixed 6 price. So it's not as good quality. It's definitely not, you know, the same. But in terms of if you like that style of wine, you can then find another style by the same winemaker. You had a tip on this as well, didn't you?
Well, it's quite interesting because like for the wine show, for example, I did this whole thing, which is coming out in a month. They've just like released it. I can say that now. It's coming out in a month. little plug. I've been in LA too long. Yeah, when we were filming in New York at a New York urban winery, and I had never tried wines from upstate New York before, really, apart from like ice wines from the Finger Lakes, but I never really tried New York, like non-ice wines, basically. And there were 3 different Chardonnays made at this winery with 3 different winemakers, and already I knew, without even opening up this bottle, it was made by my friend Abe Schoner, who you might have heard of because he does these very natural, funky wines called Scolium wines in California. And so he's like a big fan of orange wine and not filtering. And I was like, okay, out of these 3 Chardonnays, which I was told were all very going to be different styles, I immediately, just by looking at the bottle, seeing his name on it, I was like, I know that that's going to be one kind of crazy, funky, wild ride. And that out of the 3 was definitely a wild ride. It was great. But again, I just already knew, just because I knew his ethos and his personality, that he would absolutely be putting that into his wine from New York. So that kind of gave it away when I had to do a blind tasting and stuff for the wine show. I was like, okay.
I've actually thought of another link on that, which actually links to another one later, is I went to a wine tasting where Abe Schoner was, with the sampler. And
oh, yeah.
So by knowing, I actually didn't know him until I went to that tasting, but if I had, you can find the winemakers that do tastings, and then you can talk to them direct, learn a little bit more, and often they'll do some kind of deal on the night as well.
Well, it's amazing how many winemakers are just like, and wineries are getting clued up with virtual tastings, offering discounts on wines and that kind of thing. So it makes it much easier to stalk and to sleuth and to check out the man or girl behind the bottle. I know I did have to tell Steven Spurrier off when he was like, yeah, aging, you can tell if a wine ages well for the 3 Gs, the grapes, the grounds, and the guys. And I was like, and gals. 4 Gs, Stephen. But moving on, yeah, I think that's a great point. And furthering on to that point, as well as getting a hint about the style due to the winemaker, also, if you really like a winery, and you really love what they're producing in one country, and then suddenly they have a sister project or a joint venture in another country, that again immediately kind of gives you a clue as to their style. So already just in California, like there's quite a lot of sparkling wine in California. They obviously can't call it champagne because it's made in California. Most of it comes from Northern California, and lots of it, the kind of top stuff comes mainly in Anderson Valley, where it gets cool enough. And to give me a kind of guideline though, and to know that it's not going to be verge on the sweet, because there are some like off-dry styles still, and there is still quite a sweet palate here in the States. I know that Domaine Carneros by Taittinger will be kind of fuller in fruit, but it'll still be dry. I also know Roederer's. Do I have the price here? Oh, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, thank you, Soma, for putting that in. Roederer makes a wonderful sparkling wine called Quartet, and that's £25 in the Wine Society, and that's fantastic. Like, just to get anyway something from Northern California at that price point, but made by a top champagne house, that's just like worth knowing. Oh my gosh, and it's so much cheaper than champagne. And actually, I think it's really fun to start a party or to bring that kind of bottle to, I know we're doing social distancing, out to someone's backyard, or to start an evening and do something a bit different as opposed to a champagne. Just like, look what these guys are creating in California, but you know that the ethos, the quality of the winemaking will all be in check. But yeah, I think that definitely for me, and I remember when I tried Domaine Carneros the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. It's not crazy expensive. Yeah, it's 20 to 25 pounds. I've got written here too, Domaine Carneros, which is made by Taittinger. And then, we also have, Soma contributed to this, the Majestic Definition range, which has loads of interesting producers. Do you want to enlighten?
Yeah, I don't know so I've worked at Majestic, so I kind of know all the secrets there.
Yeah.
So they have their definition range where they partner up with a producer of other wines to make their kind of own brand range. So they have Majestic Loves, which is their cheaper one. You don't tend to know the producers of those, but then their definition. So their definition Rioja is made like by La Rioja Alta, who makes Ardanza, which is like Ardanza's, you know, what, over £25 a bottle, and then the definition Rioja is like 12. Then they have so St. Clair, who we had on one of our webinars, they make their Pinot Noir. Morisco, who is makes the Ned Sauvignon Blanc, but also some more premium Sauvignon Blancs. They make the Sauvignon Blanc in the range. And it, you know, it's kind of, and then I think their new white Rioja is made by Muga, and because it's got definition.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
So it's all like these amazing producers.
So cool.
They've made this wine for Majestic. They put their own label on it, the definition. But if you have a look on the back of the label, you can see who it's made by.
Interesting. Gosh, I want to go to a Majestic right now. Oh. I really miss the indies. I really miss like premium high street retail, like over here, like for wine. It's just not the same. Also, this kind of goes on to the point of Majestic's own range, but also just supermarkets' own ranges. I think it is important to say that they've really improved in the last kind of 3-4 years. It's a bit like when you go into a restaurant and you have a house white and house red. If you don't really know what else to order, I always say, like, kind of go with that. And if you're kind of worried about money too, because whatever the restaurant puts as their house, you know, they're kind of putting their name on the line, and it needs to be something which is good value, relative good quality, consistent every time you go. So it can't be too risky. And therefore, whether it's Tesco's Finest or I mean, I've used Tesco's Finest because I just found out that Catena makes Tesco's Finest Malbec. But, you know, as soon as like a supermarket puts their name to something, then you're like, ooh, okay. And like I used to write about Waitrose's own range like the whole time, and they can really tailor it. They tend to work with great producers. They really tailor it to their customers' needs because they have all the intel on the particular demographic about what's selling and what people like. So that's another bonus when you're buying from a supermarket's own range. So yeah, Catena makes Tesco Finest Malbec, and also Cantina di Monteforte, which is a fantastic cantina in northern Italy. They make Tesco's Finest Soave. I definitely know kind of the equivalent in the States. I love Costco's own range. They can play with margins. They have the money to do that. And Trader Joe's, I mean, I must admit, the supermarkets here, in terms of what you can get, you do have to spend so much money to get anything vaguely drinkable. Sorry. That's why I had to stop my grocery grab videos, because I really struggled. You're really spoiled in the UK. What you can get in supermarkets is all I'm saying. Hopefully Brexit won't change that. Sorry, I'll stop talking about politics. Moving on. And and then I do test a Trader Joe's own range, because I kind of like that kind of weeds them out. Again, for that same reason, they're putting their name towards a wine. So you have to try and trust it. Another producer, actually, which you can get, I just got last week, but you can also get it easily in England. I love Alvaro Palacios. He's known for making very expensive wine in Priorat, but he also has various other ventures. So when I was at my local indie and I was trying to find a really interesting Spanish red, but I didn't want to break the bank. I wanted under $20, and like, you know, and it was for a friend who loves their Spanish red, but I'm like, I'm not going to do Rioja. I'm not going to, because, you know, Rioja, Ribera del Duero, it's like buying like Chanel. You know, it's a brand. I'm like, I want something there which has the Chanel quality, but is like a tenth of the price. And I saw this bottle, and I've had it before, but also it's called Pétalos.
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah, so it's from Bierzo,
Mm-hmm.
Which is in northern Spain, and very cool region, mountainous region, which is known for the Mensia Grape. Mm-hmm. Now, the Mensia Grape is a really lovely alternative, I would say, to like kind of like a Pinot, or, you know, it's a fruity, kind of crunchy grape, lovely perfume, slightly earthiness to it, fairly light. I mean, this was, what's the percentage of alcohol? Anyway, though, like, even if you didn't know what Bierzo was, the name Palacios, I was immediately like, oh yeah, that's his joint venture he does with his nephew. And sure enough, like this was, I think it was about $16, $17. And again, I think, 13.5% alcohol. And then, you can get this for 14, 15 quid at Robeson, at Berry Brothers Wine on Cork. So again, like that really helped me last week when I was like trying to find something interesting. I wanted something Spanish, but I was looking and the name immediately. I was like, okay, yeah, this is not, he's got something to do with it, but it's part of the whole Palacios kind of brand. And I know what their kind of wine ethos is. So that helped me out.
Yeah, and we've talking about the Tesco range. Dan's mentioned that the Rioja is Baron de Lay. So if you like Baron de Lay, you can probably get it cheaper.
Oh, great.
And then I also remembered I've got this one. So this is a Parcel Series. This is a different type of thing that Majestic do, which is they buy a specific parcel, and it's when it's gone, because they put the number of the wine on the label and then the date.
I love that.
And it's because it runs out. So when I was working there, I think it was like number 12, and now it's number 42. And this is a Chardonnay, which it doesn't tell you on the label, but it's rumoured to be made by Cloudy Bay. And a Cloudy Bay Chardonnay would be about £25. And this is 14. It's actually down to 9.32, but it's sold out online. So you'd have to ring your local store, see if they've got it. But yeah, that kind of thing. And for those things, ask in store. Like if you know, whether you're going to an independent or Majestic or something, you can't do it in a supermarket clearly, but you know, you can ask, like, you can ask about them, ask about the wines. They're happy to talk to you.
I must say they train their staff so well at Majestic. I mean, everyone's put through kind of WSAT exams, and I've only had absolute exceptional service at Majestic, and it's interesting, like, seeing people how they've gone up in the wine world, and so many it's like through Majestic.
Yeah,
really great place.
Good. But this isn't a Majestic promo. It's just that.
No, it's not. Sorry, we are not being sponsored. We are not. No, this is just sharing the love.
Sharing the love. Right. So number 12 was follow winemakers. Number 11 was follow producers. Now we're down to less common countries. And this is something that I've always kind of helped people with. M&S used to have an amazing range of wines from more unusual countries, and you know, I worked with my local M&S to kind of help get those known locally around here, but they've cut back their range, so we don't. But what I do have is, so we featured this on one of our previous webinars, the Istanich sparkling rosé. It's traditional method, so you know, same method as champagne, and that bottle is £22 from Novel Wines, so much cheaper than a bottle of rosé champagne, and that's from Slovenia. Also in Waitrose you can get from Slovenia, Puklovec and Friends.
I love it. I've received that wine so much. I love it.
And they've got a Sauvignon and Pinot Grigio, which, you know, I've shared among friends, and they've loved it too. So that does really well. That's also from Slovenia, and that's £8.79 from Waitrose. And then previously, M&S and Sainsbury's both used to have Albarino from Uruguay, but I couldn't find it this week, so I don't know if they've stopped listing it. But you know, from Uruguay, I've had clients call me up and say that they've been to restaurants, and because I recommended Uruguayan wines, they tried either an Albarino or a Tanat in a restaurant and loved it. So, you know, again, you can get a cheaper wine if it's less common country. This wine, the Soli Pinot Noir from Swig Wines, that we've featured on a previous webinar, that's from Bulgaria. That's £12.95, and much, like, if it wasn't from Bulgaria, it would be far more expensive. It would probably be about 18 or something for the quality.
I've done that in blind tastings and wanker bankers. Sorry, I mean corporate clients. Often, like they're like, oh yes, it's more delicate. I think it must be a Santenay, and I'm like, no.
And then another one that I'm drinking is a dry ferment from Hungary. This is actually a double whammy because we'll come on to box wines later. But this is from Bib Wine, dry ferment. And looking at the label, you probably wouldn't go, oh yeah, I know what that is. But it's absolutely delicious wine. It's, you know, really zesty. That's kind of my best way of describing it. Really zesty and kind of, you know, gets the saliva going. I'm really enjoying drinking it. And then my little life hack that I just shared with Amelia earlier, because when I'm sitting in the living room and drinking my box wine, I now put I don't want to go back to the kitchen to get another glass, so I put a little ice pack in the box. So yeah, anyway, that's a dry ferment from Hungary, and you might know that ferment is made in like the Tokai wines, but this is dry, so it's not sweetened like the dessert wine. So yeah.
Can I add to this point just before we move on from this country? Because I last week discovered incredible Riesling from Slovakia, and I just think Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovenia, they're whites, whether it's Pinot Bianco, whether it's Rieslings, whether it's ferments, like that's really what I love from those countries. And they tend to be, even at their most simple and cheapest, even if they're not like, you know, not that complex or whatever, they're really beautiful and they really deliver at their price point. And it was amazing. So I'd never heard of Chateau Bela. I pronounce it all wrong. I always sound like Portuguese when I like try and do an accent. I don't know what to do. Anyway, but again, like I went in and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I want like a really interesting, like aromatic white or whatever. And it had Igor Müller on the bottle. Now I knew that Igor Müller was a fantastic Riesling producer from Germany. And this is his, like a little venture he's doing. He spent years trying to find like the equivalent to Grand Cru sites for Riesling outside of Germany, and he stumbled across them in Slovakia. And so what it basically means is I already kind of was like, oh, I like white aromatic grapes from these kind of countries. Then I saw this dude's name on, and it was $18. And I like then Googled this estate, and it turns out it's like basically Grand Cru equivalent sites and amazing. This is fantastic. And I got it for about $18. This is the Chateau Bela Riesling. I need to do research whether you can get it in England. But I served to my friends, and they all were just like blown away. It delivered like top, kind of almost like aged Riesling, because it actually been put into barrels and was really rich but beautiful. And so yeah, all I'm saying is that kind of Central Europe for white wines. If you do like fruity, aromatic, really food-friendly whites, which really deliver at their price points, that's a really great part of the world to explore.
Yeah, and in Romania, because we did our Romania webinar as well, not just from Balageza that we featured on that webinar, but also just generally Pinot Noir from Romania is known to be good quality. So, you know, if you like Pinot Noir, keep an eye out from Romania. It's a more fruity style. It's less of the earthy style that you get from Burgundy. But, you know, it's just kind of picking up little, you know, nuggets, because then you can, you know, find something different, try something new without it being too much of a risk. Because normally you'd go Romanian Pinot Noir, no thanks, so that doesn't sound very nice. But, you know, it's getting a name for itself. So at the moment, it's still quite cheap or good value for money.
Yeah, good value for money. I know, like it, again, it's like, what is value? Because you're trying to, you know, like what is accessible, what is relatable. But again, I think it's, for me, like good value is, okay, I have the comfort of knowing that what I'm spending, I'm definitely going to be rewarded in terms of quality. And having that kind of confidence. But yeah, moving on to the next point. So yes, the next point is kind of less common regions or neighbors. Now this is slightly, I guess, it's more of an esoteric point, but it's quite savvy. Like why I quite like, and this is why actually going to an importer, you know, or going to your indie is great, because often you can find great value for money with grapes which may not be from Sancerre, but let's say you really love Sancerre, but you buy actually a Touraine instead, which is only 6 kilometers away from Sancerre. So the Sauvignon Blanc grapes will have very similar terroir, very similar kind of soils and climate, and similar vintages. So obviously it's like very hard sometimes to know the nuances between these areas and the geography, but that's actually why indies, or if you go directly to a merchant or whatever and say like, look, I really like this style, are there really amazing examples of Sauvignon Blanc nearby Sancerre? And they can kind of steer you in the right direction. I mean, I really love Swig because I love Viognier, and they have this wonderful Viognier called it's something de Rosine, something like, oh my gosh, I've just completely forgotten. It's called de Rosine, Roisine. It's about 17 quid, and I'm like, how is this beautiful Northern Rhone Viognier so cheap? And it's because it's so amazing and so cheap, and it's because it's just a few kilometers outside of Condrieu, which is like phenomenally expensive, and I could never ever justify spending. So again, I explained to Swig, I really love Condrieu. There's no way I can afford Condrieu. How do I do that? And that's how they can find like value for money. And again, it's like making little decisions like, okay, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, super expensive normally, like some of the best ones, but actually you can find really, really good entry-level Gigondas, which is kind of like Châteauneuf-du-Pape's little brother. And it was very interesting because like last week it was Grenache, International Grenache Day, that hip hop happening day. And I went to this amazing Grenache tasting outside, all socially distanced, but like there was like 50 different Grenaches there and all different vintages. And what was so amazing was that, of course, there was some very expensive Châteauneuf-du-Pape, which of course were showing brilliantly at 2011, 2000, whatever, 19, like late 90s. But the Gigondas, which was about a third of the price of these big Châteauneuf-du-Pape names, were holding their weight really, really well. So I think it's sometimes just like going for the slightly like unfashionable neighbor region where you're like, oh my gosh, no, like the structure, the potential of these wines, the personality of these wines, they can absolutely hold their own. So whether it's like asking like, yeah, an importer or a retailer, or just doing some like geographical homework, like, okay, there's Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but like what else is like around it? That is also worth like leaning into.
Yeah. And on that as well, I just remembered it. There's a Petit Chablis that I love called Seguine Bardot, and the difference between their Petit Chablis and their Chablis, to me, isn't enough to warrant the price point. But their Petit Chablis is so much better than other Chablis, but it's cheaper because it's not Chablis. It's Petit Chablis. So again, it's that kind of on the outskirts, the neighbours. And again, you can ask us, you can ask people in store, you know, is there something, you know, that's near this, that's a few quid cheaper? You know, the wine store people won't mind. They're not going to judge you because you want to spend a few pounds less. They want you to enjoy your wine and feel like you've got a good deal. So you can ask. They won't. They're not going to judge you. It's fine.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't remember what it was. It's made by Michel and Stéphane Augier, and it's Viognier de Rosine. It's just like Viognier de Rosine. Anyway, it's awesome. Really, really like everything you'd want from a Condrieu, and it's just outside Northern Rhone. Sorry, that was annoying me. And then, yeah, we also just mentioned, you know, if you love your champagne, but obviously, you know, you can't be spending money on champagne every day or whatever. Actually, I mean, champagne particularly, if you really love the Chardonnay grape, which gives it kind of the appliness and the full-bodied fruit, why don't you get a Crémant de Bourgogne, which the majority are made purely of 100% Chardonnay, and it's about a third of the price. As much as I love supporting growers champagne, because that's great, I also say, like, instead of getting a big fancy pants kind of well-known champagne brand, support your growers. If that's a bit too pricey too, then why don't try a Crémant de Bourgogne, which again, similar kind of climate, same grape, slightly different soils, but again, it's like fun to try different things, which are kind of a homage to a place, but just a little bit different and definitely easier on the wallet.
Yeah, definitely. Good tips. Right, down to number 8. I don't know if we're going through this fast enough to finish in an hour, so sorry if anyone has to go.
Or an English sparkling wine. Yes, of course. I love English sparkling wines. I guess I'm thinking if people wanted to spend more like £15 on a sparkler, then Cremant is a great way to go, but absolutely English sparkling all the way. I'd love to see some more over here.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get there. Yeah,
like there's like the big 8, but yeah, I'd love to see some smaller guys coming over here too.
Yeah, it's just quite hard to crack the American market in terms of import exporting. Yeah. So next one. Now this is to do with vintage and less common vintage. My grandpa used to walk around with a little booklet of vintages in his pocket, and you know, it's I don't do that. I've had a lot of people ask me about vintages, and generally I'm not bothered by them. Sometimes, like I found with Chocolate Block, they vary a lot between vintage. There's also the Hedonist Shiraz that varies a lot between vintage, and I've been disappointed because I've loved it, and then I've bought the next one and I've not liked it. And it's I should learn vintages, but I don't. But what I did do was I read an article in the Telegraph. Again, this isn't a Telegraph promo, for Tour de Pairs, which was available in Aldi. And I was just like, what on earth is a Santa Steph Bordeaux doing in Aldi? But what happened, kind of reading more about it, and I had to buy some because I was just really intrigued. What happened was 2010, apparently, this is what I've read, 2010 was a really good vintage, and 2012 was a really good vintage, and this is 2011. Now, it's not a bad vintage, but because the other two were better, everyone was buying the 10 and the 12, which left the 11, and it kind of meant that the Chateau was left with a lot of 11. And so Aldi bought a load of it, saying, it's all right, we'll take it. And this, rather nice Bordeaux, I got from Aldi at, I think it was around £15, £16.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I had to buy a box of 6, of course. Yeah, I've still got, that's my last one left. And the 2010 and 2012 were over 20 quid. So, you know, it wasn't a huge savings, but it was a savings. And I actually had an email from a friend of mine, Peter, who's not able to join us, but he wanted to make sure that, we commented on Aldi anyway, because he's recently been trying their wines because his neighbours shop there, and he's been trying their wines and absolutely recommends the Marsanne, the Pinot Noir, and the Albarino. And I had a look, and the Marsanne comes from the estate of Paul Mass. So, you know, getting those kinds of wines in discounters like Aldi is a great opportunity to get those wines, but you do kind of need to know what you're looking for, or be someone that's just shopping there anyway and picking them up. But they're all for like less than £10 a bottle. Those kind of Aldi wines that they're stocking, really good value for money, really good, really decent wines. The only limit on it is that they only buy a certain amount of stock. So again, if you find one that you like, and then you want to go back to it a couple of months later, it might not be there anymore. So it's, you have to buy 6, then go, if you like it, try it that night, and then go back the next day and buy 6. But yeah, so you can get some bargains from those, but you kind of have to know what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's very good advice. I would say Chocolate Block has changed because they've also changed the blend.
Ah, okay. And I think they changed the region.
Yeah. I love it. So I couldn't keep quiet, and I'm so disappointed with it. It used to be like 5 years ago, it was great, and it's now just, I think they've realized we can milk this and like just make it bulk and like mass made, and it's just not got the charm, and quite frankly, I used to have. But yeah, they've changed a lot of things with that one.
And I didn't even know what they'd changed. I just didn't like it anymore.
No. Moving on. We like to champion wines as opposed to slate them. Wait, has someone just written in the chat? I loved chocolate Blanc. Well, you might still. It's changed in the last year or two. Like, it's just not.
So the 2017 is the last one that I absolutely loved, and then I went to the 2018, and it's not like it was spit out wine. You know, it was nice wine, but it wasn't worth the price. That's what happened.
They're trading off their name.
Yeah. If you find any 2017, buy it all up, because me and my friend Becca, who she tried the 17, loved it. Tried the 18, also didn't like it. We've been scouring shops, so whenever we find the 17s, we buy it.
Yeah, no, I would have to say that's when it stopped too for me. Yeah, 2-3 years ago. Yeah, that's when we stopped having it at Christmas time. But moving on to unfashionable or unpronounceable grapes, and if anyone. I could take this segment because if anyone saw me at the People's Choice Award hosting last year, I have no pride, and I will always, with enthusiasm, try and pronounce a region or a grape, even if I get it totally wrong. But I'll always try. But I think definitely in terms of unfashionable grapes, I immediately think of Italian white wines. Actually, even the New York Times wrote an amazing article on how incredible Italian whites are, particularly from Falanghina grape or Pecorino, or even I got a wine made from the Pagato grape, which actually means dot. Because apparently it's like the freckled grape, which I thought would be quite a cute name for a wine bar. But and this is like $12, and I was like, I've never heard of it. It says, and I knew it was from. It says Liguria, so I was like, okay, cool, like maritime climate, and then the Pagato grape. So for $12, I was like, hey, I'll give it a go. It was in an indie, which I trusted. And it was, if you like, the Vermentinos and Zippy Zesty Italian whites. Actually, this grape, which I'd never heard of, but which I knew was from this maritime climate in Liguria, was a great shout. And, there's a lovely Pecorino, Waitrose for £7.99. Falanghina, again, there's bottle versions of that and Waitrose. But then actually, so we put in Win in Rome, which I know we're going to be getting onto in a bit, but Philip Schofield's apparently. So I saw something on social media, again, not meant to be slating, but apparently one of his wines didn't pass the test, or people didn't like one of his wines, but I don't know which one it was. It kind of popped up on Twitter. Anyway, Falanghina is awesome. And then of course, Grillo, Zabibo. I just think there's so much value to be had. I often think I think when people struggle when they think of Italian whites, or they think Pinot Grigio, which is fairly ubiquitous, and the top are from really northeast Italy, the Alto Adige, Friuli, but often, unfortunately, now people have capitalized that, again, Pinot Grigio is a brand, you need to have it if you have a restaurant or a bar, so it's just mass made, unfortunately, a lot of the time. I think some people do think of Suaves, but again, generally, I'd say if you like your zippy zesty, look for whites from either southern Italy on the coast or islands, and the Grillo, the Zabibo. My friend was just in Sicily, so the Catorato, the Caricante kind of blends. She absolutely loved, because she really likes dry, zesty, lean. And again, with Italian grapes, you have to then immediately think of their wonderful heritage of food. So, and how versatile and food friendly these wines are. So if it is a white which comes from the sea, just think of all those amazing seafood dishes and kind of lovely fresh vegetable dishes which you get in Italian cuisine. So that, I think, is that for me. Italian whites, it was amazing. This New York Times article where it was 25 amazing Italian whites from grapes you'll never have heard of, all under $20. And it's true. And then, of course, I would say grapes from Portugal. I mean, of course, everyone knows about port. I think people are beginning to now know more about Douro reds in terms of like table wine, which can be a bit pricey, but they often really deliver in value. They're not necessarily the cheapest, but that's because Portugal consumes so much domestically. But if you are looking out for like a red grape from there, or at least a red grape in a blend, Touriga Nacional is a grape to look out for. Alvarinho from Portugal, I really, really love, and that's it's kind of its sister grape to the Alvarinho from Spain. So if you know you like Alvarinho from Spain, get Alvarinho from Portugal, which is no way as trendy, but that's where you can absolutely find the zip, the zest, the minerality, and the freshness, which you probably enjoy from your Alvarinho. Greece we had to put again because they're not the cheapest, but again, if you like your dry, zesty, minerally white wines and going back to that maritime climate and island whites, Acertico is an amazing, amazing grape variety to know about. And Waitrose, I know, did a fantastic one. I think they still do. Soma, can you think of Acertico anywhere else at the moment? I mean, I'm sure actually Majestic would have Acertico.
So, no, I don't think they didn't last time I checked, but Varieties do a really amazing Acertico. They also do a barrel fermented Acertico, and I got that from Hanford
Wines? Yeah.
And then I think the Wine Society stocks Varieties. I think Francesca on here, I think she knows. So if you know, can you tell us where else to buy it? But Acertico from other islands other than Santorini tend to be a little bit cheaper, because I always look for Santorini because I'm like, I know that's going to be good.
That's good. Yeah. That's a good tip, Francesca. Thank you for that. No, absolutely. And then Greek reds, I love, I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I should probably just type it into the chat. But I really love the reds made from the Zinomavro grape. It starts with an X. I might just like type that into the chat. How do I? Yeah, no questions in there. Just because, if you like bolder reds, and if you normally drink your Cabernets or whatever, this is a really fun grape to know about, which has plenty of fruit, but also finesse and nuance, and it's just a really great alternative. So, yeah, if it's all Greek to you, look out for that grape there, that Zinomavro. I would love to know. Did I spell that right? No?
Yeah, it's just you put it to panelists.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kinsno-Mavro. Is that how you pronounce it? Kinsno-Mavro. Thank you so much, Francesca. I would love to go to Greece and just do a whole kind of Greek wine voyage amongst the islands and then go inland. That would be amazing. I would also say, I mentioned Albarino before, but if you want to try something which is similar but slightly maybe a bit weightier and it's more like kind of summer fruit as opposed to crisp zesty, the Gordeo grape, Godello, I really love. It tends to be left on lees, or it can be slightly barrel aged fermented. It does really, really well unoaked or with a slight bit of oak aging. I actually prefer it sometimes because it's just like a little bit weightier and richer. So yes, that is my other type. We'd also put down old world grape varieties from the new world. So it's actually quite interesting. When I'm in South Africa, they're working with a lot of Italian, south of France, and Portuguese grapes. These are the grapes which quite frankly thrive during climate change. So you never know. I know people talk about Pinotage from South Africa. Who knows? It could be the Cunoise grape in years to come. But it is just very interesting with climate change, seeing how countries are adapting and experimenting. And also, when I think of Australia, you think of all the Italian immigrants, Portuguese immigrants who've come over and have always grown their grapes. And now, yeah, particularly during these times, it's amazing how Nebbiolo from Australia is becoming more of a thing. And it tends to be cheaper because people just don't associate Nebbiolo and Australia. They think of Aussie Cab and Shiraz, but I would really urge you guys to give those a go, and they could very much be the face the wine world for that country in the future. Yeah, with climate change.
Also, if you're looking for an easy drinking white, Vermentino from Burton Vineyards, I think is around £7-8 from Co-op. And that's, you know, like, I'll go to Co-op just to get that wine. Yeah, really easy drinking. It's from Australia, Burton Vineyards, but Vermentino grape from Italy. Again, you know, really good value for money.
I think, yeah. Should we move on to the next one? I know you're conscious of time.
All right. Yes, Janet, we should all go to Greece.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so the next one, number 6, is my tip of buying direct. Now, this is much more common in other countries. So like in the States, I know that it's much more common for people to buy direct from the vineyard than we do here, because, you know, the UK wine scene is growing. But we do have quite a few producers in the UK that produce wine not in the UK, and you can buy direct from them. So for example, we've got Paso Primero wines. This is their kind of table red, their house red, which I've always got a stock of. Buying direct from them, you know, you essentially cut out the middleman. So I buy from Paso Primero, I buy from Domaine Saint Rose. They also own Simpson's Vineyards in England, so you can buy both the French Domaine Saint Rose from, I think it's Languedoc.
That's a great wine club. That's a really great wine club.
Yeah, and then you can also buy direct from, so like Bib Wine, you know, all of the box wines, the canned wines, because they're getting wines from elsewhere and bringing them in, and by buying them direct, you're cutting out the middleman. So either you're saving a few pennies, or they're making a few more pennies. So either way, it's kind of like you're helping yourself or you're helping them. So either way, it's a good thing. And actually, Paso Primero, I don't know if anyone didn't see, but Paso Primero have given us for this webinar 10% off if you buy any of their wines with the code HYO10 at checkout. So if you're interested in trying their wines, then please do go and have a look. Yeah, I think that kind of segues into the next one, because, you know, buying direct, you can buy box wines direct.
Exactly. And I mean, we've covered different formats. We had a big webinar with people making wines in all kinds of different formats now, with people from all around the world, and we did that in June. But yeah, bag and box we really wanted to highlight, just because I actually think there's far more interesting bag and box options in the UK than there are in the US. Even in the US, they are like fairly popular, but in terms of quality, now you're drinking Win in Rome, thank you, Soma, and Bib Wine. So Win in Rome, I love. The founder behind Win in Rome, he's been nominated several times for like Wine Innovator of the Year, you know, internationally. It's typically £26, $25.99 for the equivalent of 3 bottles. And I mean, I love his wine. I've written about his wine in Waitrose magazine a couple of times. And then Bib Wine, I adore the concept. They are a family who actually who kind of all help with the marketing digital wise, like kind of doing all the strategy. But then their wine guru is Justin Howard Sneed, who is a master of wine, makes his own wine, been in the industry for a very, very long time, been a buyer, all kinds of stuff. And their whole thing is premium wines with small growers, but in a sustainable and very aesthetic package. Brilliant, you know, so you're saving the environment, you're drinking amazing juice. They had this idea when they were in France, that whole concept of when you go to France, you can, you know, go to a local store with your jug and top up. They're like, well, why can't we have something similar, but, you know, really bring kind of local grape growers and really authentic juice in a really convenient and sustainable package. So it's amazing in terms of how much you can reduce the carbon footprint. It's amazing how you can save money, and also in terms of like portion control, I think too. I've written about bag and box wine too. It's like, okay, yeah, I just want to have to like glasses, or I want to make one of these last a week or whatever, you know, and that's how you do it. I've actually written about bag and boxes when trying to be savvy, if you're not wanting to do dry January, but just trying to be more mindful January.
Yeah, I talk about box wine quite a bit on social media because I think it's amazing. I mean, storage wise, this is 3 bottles, and and I did a post the other day with I went to Centre Parks, very good at social distancing, by the way. I was very impressed with Centre Parks social distancing. And I just took a Le Grappin Magnum with me, and it was like, just pop that in the car. Whereas if you're taking bottles, it's like, oh, I've got to make sure that they're packaged and they're not going to roll around, and and then how are they going to fit in the fridge? And the more you drink it, the more it fits in the fridge. but yeah, so they're really like portable. And the other thing that I just wanted to point out as an example for the price, so so you can see kind of what you're saving. So with the Bee Pink, which I love, so that's the domain of the Bee Pink wine from Bib Wine. If you buy the box, it's $33.80 for 3 bottles equivalent. So that comes down to
top wine. That's top juice there. That's Justin's wine.
Yeah, that's £11.27 a bottle. If you buy that wine in a bottle from Justin, so you're buying direct, it's £15 a bottle. If you're a part of his members club, so if you're part of his wine club, then it's £12 a bottle. So it is cheaper to buy it in a box, and it's the same wine, and it's delicious.
Yeah.
And now, because I just had a quick look on Bib Wine's website, and they now have 18 wines.
Yeah, I saw that. That was mad.
And what's even better is to buy 3 bottles of wine, you've kind of got to know that you like it, right? But Bib Wines, they do this like sample pack of, I can't remember how many's in there, something like 6 different samples. So you can try the wines beforehand, but every time I've had a look, they've been sold out. But you can sign up to be notified.
No. When I'm back in the UK, I'm trying like that whole range. I'm just going to go mad during my 14-day quarantine period. I'll just work my way to Bib Winery.
Yeah, but I mean, they do last 6 weeks, so you could have them all open at the same time. But that kind of leads on to our next one. So our number 4 tip, so we're down to number 4, is wine clubs. And when we talk about wine clubs, we mean kind of the direct purchase, either direct with the winery or with the importer. So as examples, we're talking about Domain of the Bee. They have a wine club where you can get monthly or quarterly subscriptions to their wines, and they will choose it depending on the price point that you want to pay for those. And doing that, you will save money. Same with, so we're doing a Portuguese webinar soon, and Exquisite Portuguese Wines, they do a wine club as well. We're going to be doing Saki one next. They also, Sarakami, they have a wine club. So many more of these wine clubs are coming up because it's a way that they can drive loyalty, because with you shopping in supermarkets, then you're not going to be loyal to their brand. So they can drive loyalty to their brands or their wines, and you save money. So it's kind of like a win-win there. If you love the wines, it's a great way to be a savvy shopper. And then Chapel Down, they do a system, I haven't done it myself, but a friend of mine has, where you can buy the vines, or not the vines, but you buy like a vine, or you say you're buying a vine, and essentially then you get a discount on their wines. So you're kind of investing in the company, and as a result you get discount on the wine. So it's worth kind of finding out if there's a favorite supplier that you can use, or a favorite importer, and then sign up to their wine club. And they'll introduce you to new wines that you might not have chosen yourself as well, but because you trust them, you know that the wine that they give you is gonna, even if it's not to your taste, it's going to be good wine. And then if it's not to your taste, give it to someone else.
Exactly. So yeah, speaking of giving it to someone else, another tip we had was to follow critics, writers, or influencers. Now, of course, you know, everyone has a different taste. So when I always just like, you know, wine is purely subjective. But I definitely know that, you know, there's often times when I'm in a shop or whatever, and I Google a wine, and an American writer will, that, you know, who I like, this particular one I like, who writes for the New York Times, you know, and I'll be like, oh, I know I'm going to like listen to what he says because he has a similar taste to me, just because maybe I'll taste a wine and I'll check him out and I'll just see like whether our notes kind of compared, or like what he said kind of sounded very similar to what I was tasting. So I'm not saying like we should just follow points blindly or whatever, but if there is someone who, you know, you see on Instagram who is kind of at least like drinking things which you've heard of or which you've enjoyed in the past, or the way that they're talking about it seems really relatable and fun, then that's definitely a way to go. I mean, again, there is Vivino, which I kind of think is a bit like, I don't know, Soma, what's your thoughts on Vivino?
I find it, I mean, my husband loves it, but I find it a little bit like TripAdvisor. You don't know who's
It
writing.
is TripAdvisor for wine. It's TripAdvisor for wine. This is why I prefer like an individual or a friend who has similar taste to me giving me advice, as opposed to, and I really want to endorse it because I'm all about like making wine like accessible and relatable, but I must admit Vivino I kind of find a bit, yeah, overwhelming and a bit messy. I wouldn't. So that's why I tend to either go with the wine critic or the friend I trust, or the influencer who I like how they engage with wine. And even let's say if I get the wine, I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. I'll at least appreciate the points they're making about it, and I'll be like, oh, cool, like it's maybe try something new and something different. Maybe it's not my favorite kind of wine, but that's like good to know about, and you appreciate the context they framed it in. So that was another one of our tips. And again, we put same with store staff and friends. Yeah. Actually, I really loved when Waitrose had their like staff recommendations. You know, because it's like when you go into Waterstones and they have their staff recommendations, and you're like, oh wow, like, because again, they're putting their name to it. So when they actually have like buyer's choice in Waitrose, again, they tend to put the context right. They'll be like, this is an amazing wine because it comes from this like crazy grape, which you can't really find anywhere else. So you're like, okay, whether you like it or not, it's like, it's got a great story. Or they'll be like, did you know that this is like what this person's, you know, they used to work at this winery and now they've moved here and they're doing really cool stuff. So I really loved going into stores where they did. I wish more kind of supermarkets did that kind of buyer's choice, buyer's recommendations. That would be really, really helpful.
Yeah, definitely had that. I definitely had that experience at Majestic, working there. So it was me, Ed, and Fran, and customers would come in and they'd be like, "Oh, is Ed here?" We're like, "No, sorry. You know, can I help? You know, I'd love to help you with your wine choice."
Yeah.
But customers found which of the staff had the same wine taste as them, and then they would want them to recommend. So it's not that it was like an insult that they wanted Ed. Because Ed also got, you know, people asking, oh, is Soma in today because I want to talk to her about my wines. And it's, you know, they found out of the three of us, we had quite different tastes.
Yeah.
Who was more similar. So it's not that one of us was more, you know, better at tasting or had, you know, better taste than the others. It, like you said, it's completely subjective, and it's finding those writers or critics who have this similar taste to you, so that you can like feed off them and their recommendations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm conscious of time, so let's move on to your next point, Soma.
Yeah, so signing up to mailing lists. Now this, we weren't quite sure whether to put this one in or not, because, you know, we all hate spam. But the thing is again, if you find a retailer or a producer or an importer who you like their wines, if you sign up to the mailing list, they will let you know when they have new wines in. They will let you know when they have discounts, because they want to drive you to buy more. So by signing up to those emails, you're getting notified when you can spend a little bit less. So it's just, you know, I'm not telling you to get, you know, sign up to everything, get loads of spam, but if there's something that you like, so for example, I still get the swig emails, and, you know, they come in and I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, I would like to try that because I know that you've got some good wines.
Yeah. No, swig I do sign up to, absolutely. And then finally, go to in-store tastings, tasting events, and pop-up wine bars. Obviously now I know that's a bit tricky, during COVID. I mean, I love the Waitrose Drinks Festival. That was like such a bargain. They did a one in the summer and one in the winter, and you could just basically, for like I think 50 quid or something, you could try that whole range, like everything, wines, spirits. They had food, and that was a great way for me to try, just like even like when I was like writing about their wines, it's like, great, this is awesome, and it was fun. And often they had like producers fly over for that too. So are there any kind of pop-up tastings going on, or anything which stores are doing, which like kind of?
Not really at the moment, but normally yes. So normally, so like Novel Wines, who we featured, they have their own wine bar now. Where I live in Marlow, next village, Cookham, they have a wine shop there, and they open like Thursday, Friday, Saturday evenings. Then you have like in Majestic stores, they do tastings. They do in-store tastings anyway, so they will always have wines open. I don't know what it's like now, but you could go in, try the wines, and then once a month they would do a tasting as well. Sometimes they would have a specific producer. So we got St. Clair to do a tasting in our Majestic, and it's, some of those are free. Brilliant, go and try wine for free, and some of them are ticketed, and then you can get the price of the ticket back off. Laithwaite's also do a big wine fair similar to the Waitrose one, once a year or twice a year, and they have the producers there, so you can talk to the producers. Wine Society, they do like they go to towns and they hire like a hall, and then you can taste the ranges there, meet the producers. Majestic is still doing tastings in store, but in a safe way. Yeah.
In a COVID safe way. That makes sense. Yeah.
So and then of course my pop-up wine bars, they used to be amazing. But again, it was the reason why I used to do my pop-up wine bars was to help people try wines, and all of them were from retailers that you could then go and buy. So, it would feature Sainsbury's and Waitrose, Majestic, and local independents. And, it was a way of people trying before they buy. So, I think having those tasting opportunities is a great way to try, because wine is subjective. Just hearing someone say it's great doesn't mean that you'll necessarily like it. So if you can try before you buy, that's a great opportunity.
And it's amazing how much people don't mind spending that little bit extra if they know what they're going to be getting. Then suddenly price, again, it can be subjective. You're like, oh no, but I really love this wine. It's worth that extra 3-4 quid.
It's not a gamble. It's kind of like, okay, my sweet spot might be 12, but if something looks a bit, I might go 10. And then it's, if I've tried it, I'm like, I'll spend 15 because I know I'm going to enjoy it. There's no gamble, low risk. I'm a low risk person.
Measured risk.
Oh, and then, so we mentioned Aldi earlier. They do something called the Aldi Diploma.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant to mention that. Yes, sorry, yes.
Which is where they, so you can order wines. I don't know exactly how I think it might be like you sign up to it and you go, okay, I'm going to do, the first bit of the course, the Aldi Diploma, and they send you 6 wines and they give you notes on the wines and you taste them, and then you can figure out what you like, and then you can go on to the next one. So it's like an interesting way of doing a wine course, but you get the whole bottles, but you can do it at your own speed.
Wow, we did it.
Yeah. 12 tips.
5 gold rings. No, we did it.
Online tastings, yeah, absolutely, Francesca. Like during lockdown, we've not been the only people doing online tastings. It's absolutely a fantastic way to join in. I did join up to 67 Pall Mall to do a couple of their tastings, but it's really expensive, so I've stopped doing that. But
how much were they charging?
Pardon?
How much were they charging?
So it's free to do the to join the session, but I think one of them, because you get little bottles of the wines, and one of them it was like £72 for the little bottles, and then another one I did was £110, and it's like, that's a lot of money to just taste wines. Amazing wines, but it's not something that I could keep.
It's not sustainable. Yeah,
it was just a fun. It's locked down. It's a fun. I'm just gonna splash out and do it. But so Bib, like we said, Bib do those little sample packs, and they do an online tasting as part of that as well. If you wanted to join in, Honest Grapes, they do test tubes of wine as part of their online tasting. So there's loads out there, and we're you don't have to just stick with us. Go and have a look and see what else is out there, because it's really interesting to do the online tastings.
Does anyone have any questions or anything, I guess, before we wrap up?
I've missed some of the
chat
marks, yeah.
Oh, I like Francesca's. Oh wait, no, it's Darren's point. The likes of Aldi and Lidl after Christmas, because they only get them in for Christmas and they knock loads off the price. Yeah. Ice wines and Sauterne, absolutely. I always love those from Aldi and Lidl. And also their grower champagne is fantastic around Christmas time too.
And if you like sherry, a friend of mine has often bought sherry very greatly discounted from M&S. I don't know why they suddenly do that, but I know, was it a couple of years ago or a year ago, they did like they reduced their range, and there were amazing wines that were going really cheaply, and we're all like, has anyone been to M&S near them? Can they get a hold of these? That was quite fun. But yeah, so just keep an eye out. Yeah.
Anyone else? I think.
Love for Tom at Paso Primero.
Absolutely, he's awesome. Love him too.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you all so much. We have...
Good luck with your WSET, Dan.
Yeah, good luck. We have been given this 3-pack of bottle stops from Avena. They are amazing for keeping your wine fresh. The seal is really good. Instead of sealing from the outside, it goes in and then seals from the inside. So it's a really tight seal. You can lie the bottles down if you don't have enough room in your fridge. We're going to randomly pick a name of all the attendees tonight to send that to. If anyone, because it's too difficult to do the other way around, if anyone doesn't want to be part of that competition, can you let me know? But what I'll do is, once I've picked out the name from a random name generator, then I will email that person to get their address. So that's how you'll know if you've won, and then I will announce who's won. So just yeah, so good luck to you lot for winning those, because they're amazing.
Yeah, great.
Thank you all. Thank you, Amelia. So good to see you again.
I know, it's good to be back. It is good to be back, and I'm very excited about sake.
Yes, I should have put this on a while ago. I'm too slow today. Yeah, so just a quick reminder of the upcoming webinars before we go. Oh, I've just deleted it. Deary me. So we've got sake on the 8th of October, and I have put there's a link on the website now to go and buy the wines. There are only, there's a small duo, so 300 mils each duo. There are only 6 packs of those as tasting packs, but there are other wines that we've other sakis that we've listed. So if the tasting packs are gone, don't worry, we're going to be talking about all of these sakis that are listed in the link from my website. So if you're interested in sake, go and get one of those and join us, or bring your own sake.
I'm very much looking forward to that.